Good morning and welcome to Fire in the Belly. We have another boardroom talk today with the outstanding Pat Slattery, and we've just picked another little topic. But today is going to be a little bit of a fun one, I think. And for anyone that's been in Pat's company, they sort of realize that Pat seems to sit in a cave. This is one thing that's come out of COVID. Pat sits in a cave with all his experience and knowledge all around him, so everything seems to be within arm's reach. So that's kind of what triggered today's talk, really. But I think it's really a deeper subject too, and it's really is everything you need in or around you? And that's a bit of a question. So good morning, Pat, and thanks for coming on again.
Good morning, Pete. Great to be on here again.
It's so tell us what was your take on it when we sort of raised this topic?
Oh, when we raised this topic, I said, "Oh, what's he doing now? What's he putting me through now?" Right? But the funny thing is, Peter, and for me, over 26 years in the world of personal growth and professional growth and this industry, and as a teacher, I guess, in this industry. But I'm a lifelong student, and over the last 26 years or so, most of the advice I get asked is practical advice, and I try to have a very practical approach. But I am finding, Peter, since we start doing these talks, is you're digging a little bit deeper sometimes, and and I understand the importance of this. And when I was thinking about the answer, I'm going to share with you some tools, I guess, as some of my resources in ways. But there's something more than that, and I think I couldn't do it justice unless we address that, I suppose, and go a little bit deeper in terms of where we're at. But for me, again, I want to try and bring a practical approach to everything, so everybody understands that they can do it as well, if that makes sense. So that's my thought patterns this morning, and again, of course, because you don't give me too much notice, Peter, on what the topic is and what we're going to have a conversation about. But I love where it's bringing it, and I love where it's bringing me, actually, to be honest with you, and bringing up certain insights that I may not always talk about in I suppose in a purposeful way. That we get this deep into some of these topics. I'm sure I talk about it and I express it in ways when I do my seminars and talks and everything else. But I think this is where we're kind of getting into the deeper questioning, if that makes sense, but in a practical way. I hope that makes sense,
It does, and that's quite something, I suppose, to have had 26 years, and I mean that's a lot of knowledge. That's a lot of books, a lot of thoughts, opinions, ideas, suggestions. I mean, it's multiple lifetimes, right?
Yeah, and well, ironically, it is multiple lifetimes, and I'm surprised you said that now, because it's a conversation. As again, look, I put one of my closest friends and my closest confidants to rest over the weekend, and we say goodbye to a man at 70 years of age. But in the conversation we're having, he has lived multiple lifetimes in his life, and I feel the same for me. I'm 50 in a few more weeks, some few weeks, and 6 weeks or whatever it is, right? But sometimes when I have conversations with people, and then people say to me, geez, Pat, are you sure you're not 90, right? Because of the stories that I can share in terms of my experiences, the knowledge that I have picked up over the years, and it feels like multiple lifetimes. And you know what? Maybe it is multiple lifetimes, Pete, right? Maybe it's not knowledge that we picked up in just the last 26 years or the last 50 years of my life, because the reality is this knowledge is handed down. People say, we talked way back about having that gift of knowing, that knowledge and information that from whatever it's handed down from, and the universe stores this information, this knowledge, right? And it's available to everybody if they're prepared to tune in, right? And actually download this information and allow themselves to do that. Now, I'm not going to get strange on this, but I want people to get a good understanding of where I'm coming from here. But in my time in the world, I've met a lot of people. I've been blessed that I have met a lot of older people. And I say older now respectfully, right? Because maybe older in age. But when people are older in age, they tend to bring with them a lot of experience. And I think a lot of the information and the knowledge that I was downloading was information that was shared to me from older people. And maybe they inspired me to allow that knowledge in and accept that knowledge and accept it to become part of my reality. And by allowing it inside of me, that I took ownership of it. And that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about this morning with people who are watching or listening here, is finding that, finding that and taking ownership of this knowledge, this information that's readily available for everybody, by the way. And I think when we talk about, lifetimes, yeah, I feel like I've had multiple lifetimes. You know, I remember the same man that I were discussing, and Donny O'Callaghan, because I think it's respectful to mention his name. I remember him saying one time, you know, he said, "Listen, I've forgotten more about this than you'll ever learn," right? And he was a great character. But the reality is, I've probably forgotten more than I am capable of sharing, if that makes sense, over the years of absorbing this knowledge. But absorbing the knowledge means taking control and taking ownership too, and doing it and being involved in it. And again, the one thing I often hear people say, and I really heard this people say this, Pete, right? Everything you need is already inside of you. Okay. You may have heard mantras like everything you seek is within you, or you are exactly where you need to be in this moment. Now, what I will say is these are not new mantras. Now, I'm going to say this to you people as well, purposely, right? That everything you need is already inside of you. Everything you seek is within you, and you are exactly where you need to be in this moment. Now, again, they're not new mantras. I've heard multiple variations, by the way, on this theme over and over for many, many years. And I've probably used some similar during meditations or visualizations, maybe once or twice or three times, right? But I'm sure I've used mantras simply like this also. But for me, it wasn't until I actually understood all of the full power of these statements. And one I understand here, when we talk about understanding the full power of these statements, that's when the magic happens. That's when the magic happens. And if you allow yourself to believe that, not just that you are enough, right? But deep inside you is that magic that you seek. Inside every single person who's watching here. Now, the thing is, what has happened is that people have confused things with material stuff, or stuff that they can visibly see or physically touch, right? Which is fine, by the way, because that's like a representation of where you're at. You can recognize it by that. So I'm going to try and get you to understand a little bit more as we go forward in terms of where we're at, because things are going to happen in your life as well. And things that you're not going to be happy with. And because when I make a statement here that I'm saying to people that you are exactly where you need to be in this moment, and I know, because I've met a lot of people and I've had those moments in my life, and I go, no, I don't want to be where I am right now. No, this is not where I need to be. This is what I'm feeling today is not what I need to feel. So maybe we should touch on that a little bit more. But I want you to understand that again, it's about taking a different viewpoint and a different approach and a different level of understanding. And again, to understand that everything is on the way, not in the way. And when you come across those challenges, and you will be challenged, we've said this many, many times. I look at last week was a particularly challenging time for me, at the loss of a very close friend, because he was my confidant. He was somebody who I would pick up before we come on here, we had a very brief chat, Pete, and I said it to you. The amount of times I wanted to send him a text or pick up the phone, so many things were going on, and I'm scrolling through my Facebook and I'm just about to tag him, you know. So, but I understand that for whatever reason, I don't need to know the exact reason right now, but this is on the way for me. And yet I know I want to be very respectful, because there are family members who are feeling probably more pain than I'm feeling, but for me, I accept now that everything is on the way, not in the way. I got to say, there was so much more that I could have done. There's so much more that I wanted to do. But I would refuse to live with regret, and I would refuse to be mourning. And I understand it's okay to grieve, by the way. And for me, the important thing for me is to celebrate his life, and recognize by celebrating his life that this is on the way. The memories that have come up for me, the things that I've recognized as part of my journey and my learnings, and it's only come up as a result of this great loss that we've suffered, right? So to me, that's on the way, not in the way. If that makes sense, And so when we start thinking about, where we're at, and understanding, because I've heard some people get frustrated in the past when they hear that everything you need is already inside of you, and everything you seek is within you, and you're exactly where you need to be in this moment, right? And that can create an awful lot of frustration, Pete, because most people want instant gratification, right? They want it now. They want an answer now. So the other thing we have to understand then is, well, what do actually people want? What do they want? So when I ask this question, and I've asked this many times in my seminars, people will say, I want health, I want love, I want happiness, I want money, I want time, I want confidence, I want freedom, or I want knowledge, I want peace of mind, I want to be better, to live a fulfilled life. I want relationships, and the relationships that I would like to have. I want to have a sense of achievement, or I want to have balance in my life, or I want a plan. I want to know how to do it. And these are the answers. These are the questions that when I ask that question, that people keep coming up for people. So if you can ask yourself, if you say to yourself, how come, or you ask yourself, what can I do to get a better relationship, or I want a better relationship, why can't I have it, or why can't I have that sense of achievement, or why can't it be better? What I'm gonna share with you here, I guess, is where there is a question, there is always an answer. And if you can ask the question, someone inside of you already have the answer. Because I don't believe it's possible for you to ask a question unless you know the opposite of that question. Therefore, the answer is there somewhere, but for whatever reason, it's hidden. It's beaten down, shoved down, forced down, suppressed, whatever. There's a reason, there's something going on. But I don't believe, and this is just my personal belief, that you can ask a question without really knowing the answer. Now, you might have to seek and dig deep for that answer to come out, right? Or to find a way to communicate the answer, whether it's communicating it verbally, mentally, physically, psychologically, spiritually, doesn't matter. But you may have to find a way to dig deeper to be able to communicate the answer. But I can promise you, where there is a question, there is an answer. So how do you find this answer? What do you need to find the answer? And these are just some of the things that I'm going to share with you, and there may be more. But this is what I believe the answer is, or where the answer is. And number one is in choice. Making better choices that serve you best. And in order to make better choices, you have to create an attitude. And that attitude of gratitude, right? You've got to find gratitude. You've got to find what it is you're grateful for. Because if everything is on the way, not in the way, you've got to be grateful for everything. Now, it doesn't mean you'll be grateful for particular incidents, but there's a lesson in everything. The third thing I believe where the answer is in belief. And we're going to touch a little bit more on that this morning. And the fourth thing are actions. Actions that require habits, skills, knowledge. The fifth thing is desire. Having that desire, knowing that deep inside yourself that you want to do it. The sixth answer, I believe, is in faith. And I talk about faith, and to me, it doesn't matter what it is. I'm not a religious person. I believe I'm quite spiritual, but I have no affiliation to any religion, and I don't have any issues with anybody that does. If that's what gets you through, if that's what it means to you. But for me, it's about having faith in yourself and having faith in the universe, whatever that means to you, that it will deliver whatever it is you ask of it. And in order for that to happen, I believe another important component is questioning. Seventh answer to me is questioning. Asking powerful questions. Powerful questions are really important. because that starts to bring to you the things that you start wanting, or the things you're looking for, or you're asking for in the universe. So powerful questions like such as, how can I make it happen for me? Right? How can I make it happen for me? Whatever it means to you, whether, whatever it is that you're looking for, if it's that, self-fulfillment, if it's happiness, if it's balance, if it's money, if it's love, whatever it means. But ask yourself, how can I make it happen for me? Then, or what can I do if I want this to happen for me? Now, usually what happens in the middle of these questions for most people is people go, well, why me? Why would this work for me? And again, instead of asking why me, ask why not me? Why not me? Because these are some of the questions that I asked when I go back 26 years ago, maybe a bit longer actually. But I think it was 26, 27 years ago when I really, really took control. And we'll talk about that in a few moments as well. But instead of asking why me, ask why not me. So you got to ask yourself, where are the answers? Now think about it. If you ask yourself, where are the answers? You're asking a question of yourself. You know you have the ability to find the answer to anything. So if you ask where the answers, we're going to go back to the first point I mentioned here, which is choice. You got to choose to find them. And then one of the other thing, I think it was number 4 that I mentioned here, was you got to act on them. So you must choose to find them and then act on them. And then again, remind yourself, if you can ask the question and somewhere inside of you, the answer already exists. Now, for things to really change, you have to own the answer, not just a question. Because people have become extraordinarily good at asking questions. And some people like to ask a lot of questions. And that's part of your learning process, right? If you keep asking questions. Yet when I see a lot of people asking questions, they tend to write more questions and think about more questions. And people become really, really good at questioning. And that's okay, by the way. You got to own the question. But there's going to come a point where you have to own the answer, not just a question. When you own that answer, when you ask enough questions that goes deep enough, right, you can liken it to digging a hole. Every time you put a shovel in and you lift the earth, that's another question. Somewhere down there, the answer is there. And when you dig deep enough, you're going to come across the answer. Now you can choose to dig around it and keep digging, or you can choose to take ownership. And I'm going to suggest you take ownership of the answer, because it's when you really only own the answer, that's when life starts to change. You have to find your inspiration to take ownership. You may have to question, in order to find this, to take ownership, you may have to question your motivation. You may have to question your environment. You may have to question your questions. You may have to question your beliefs. You may have to question your story. You may have to question your identity. And you may have to question your actions. And I'm sure there's so much more. But I will say you may also have to question your faith. Now, most people, by the way, are afraid to talk about faith. I heard this come up so many times when people talk about faith, because people go, oh, is that one of those religious things you're going to talk about? Are we going to get all religious on me and you're going to get all mushy or woo-woo and all this kind of stuff, right? But I mean this, you're going to have to dig deep and you're going to have to question your faith in you, and find that faith in you. And I mean question it. I'm not talking about beating yourself up. I'm looking for the right answers here. We're looking for the answer. We're not looking for more questions. I hope this makes sense. We want to find the answer so you can take ownership. Because when you take ownership of your faith in you, then you will be, do, and have whatever it is you choose to have. Now, when I talk about people who are afraid to talk about faith, again, the reason most people are afraid to talk about fate is because people will challenge you, right? And by the way, you're going to get some well-meaning friends who will warn you about getting into the topic of fate. They'll tell you, oh, that's very controversial, or that's very personal. Why would you discuss that? Or maybe it's too broad. So that could mean anything. And it creates all this stuff when really it has absolutely nothing to do with them. It's got to do with you, your faith in you, and your ability to be, do, have whatever it is you choose to be, do, and have. So you're gonna find that faith. You got to dig deep. You got to have faith in yourself. You have to trust yourself, and you got to, because let me say this to you. Even when you're being challenged, and you have people who are telling you maybe it's too broad, or maybe it's too personal to discuss, or or it's a very controversial thing. When it comes to having faith in you, you know yourself better than anyone else. I think this is really important. You have a desire for more. You have something inside you that you know you want to have more. The environment, your friends, the fears, all these other things that keep getting in the way are all, I suppose, they're secondary. They've really got nothing to do with you. Okay, they're all external forces. They're nothing to do with you. You know yourself better than anyone else. And if you have a desire and you have a feeling, even once, that there's something that you can be, do, have, or choose to have, it doesn't matter whether it's happiness, love, money, affection, friendship, doesn't matter. Whatever it is that you desire, you know yourself better than anyone else. You know your truth. I think this is really important when it comes to your faith, having that faith in yourself. You know yourself. Just keep telling yourself that you know yourself better than anyone else. And I would hope that that could be a driving force to keep you focused on the things that you want. Now, again, in order for this to happen, you got to start focusing on the things that you want, not the things that you don't want. Because most people, whether they realize it or not, are focused on the things that they don't want in life, in business, in relationships, in health, money. And the reality is, when you stop focusing on the things that you want, what you don't want usually turns up. Right? It's amazing, and all of a sudden you'll recognize it. Now, people say to me, well, how do I recognize? I didn't ask for that. Now, and maybe you didn't. So let me ask you a question. When we think about whether you focus on the things that you don't want or the things that you do want. Now, many people you will meet, you may hear something like this: hope that nothing goes wrong today. Today is going to be a positive day, and I hope that nothing goes wrong today. Now, what are you asking for? What will you recognize? Go ahead, Pete.
Not just you're inviting something to go wrong, right?
Yeah, because you're recognizing it. Because what's the primary thought here? I'm looking for things that might go wrong. Okay, so all of a sudden you start recognizing the things that are going wrong. You pay attention to the news. You listen to what other people in your environment are saying, etc., etc. And then guess what? The things that go wrong usually start to turn up again. Now, or maybe you might find yourself meeting with people and asking people, or people ask you how you are today. My phone is ringing. I've got to turn it off. So people might ask you how you are today. What do you say? You say things like, same stuff, different day. Right? Or sure, could be better. Struggling, not too bad. And these are just common things that people say. Now, maybe they've picked up along the way as part of their environment, has educated them to have this answer, provided this answer for them. So the answers that you're giving that are coming to you almost automatically are the answers that you recognize more. So how could you have more health, wealth, happiness if this is what's coming to the forefront every single time you're asked this question, or anything similar to that? So you got to start asking for what you do want. You got to refocus your search when you're searching for the answers. So by refocusing that search, you got to refocus your questions. And I will say to you, this is right here, right now with you. And when we talk about refocusing your search, don't spend your life searching all over the world when all you need is close at hand. And you've mentioned about, here in my cave, right, on my office, I'm surrounded by knowledge. Surrounded by knowledge. And, and in many conversations, we have a conversation and I'll reach out and pull something up, right? And you just smile just like you did right now, right? When because there's something going to come up and I share some resources. But one thing I'm going to share with people here today, if you haven't read this, you can Google this, by the way, and there are thousands of free copies of this, by the way. Thousands of them in multiple languages. You can download this in audio. But remember, when I say everything you need is close at hand, I'm going to highly recommend this book here, Acres of Diamonds, right? Acres of Diamonds. If you haven't read it, Google it, right? It's by Russell H. Conwell. It's a very old book. It's a beautiful book. The message is in here. I'm not going to share the message other than everything you need is close at hand. Okay, everything you need is close at hand. And if you understand that, you will understand that information is here. Everything you need is close at hand. All those things that you want, the things that we discussed earlier, right? In terms of what do people want? They want happiness, health, right? Health. Do I have a book here on health? Yeah, I have Juices and Smoothies, right? The best ever vegetarian cookbook, right? No, of course I live with vegetarians, right? So that's here. Oh yeah, I have multiple other books here when we talk about health, and we can talk about mental health as well, right? So there's a book there on mental health, love. And I don't have the Kama Sutra before you ask, right? That's a different type of love. But there are plenty of books here in terms of love. Yes, I have Louise Hay, right? I have a book here from Louise Hay. Happiness. There's so much that we have here in terms of happiness, right? Overcoming fears, right? So here we go. Feel the fear and do it anyway. So you want to overcome fears. Here's a book. Knowledge is here. Okay, the knowledge is here. What else we got? Money. Okay, here's a great book, by the way, by a good friend of mine, Dr. John D. Martini. I think you might have met John with me. He was here with me last year speaking in Dublin. It's called How to Make One Hell of a Profit and Still Get Into Heaven, right? The information is here. Not only that, we have Like Him or Loathe Him, right? I have a book here that was written by Robert Kiyosaki and the infamous Donald Trump. Okay. So the book is called Why We Want You to Be Rich. Right. So there's information here for people who have rich in terms of money. Okay. Time. I have so much here in terms of time. Right. This one here, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Right. That helps you with time, confidence. Magnificent book by my partner, Donna Kennedy, The Confidence to Succeed, right? Information is here. But by the way, if you want to know more, The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, right? T. Harv Eker. The power of your subconscious mind, knowledge, freedom, right? It's all here. I have so much, we also have Gratitude Journal, Donna Kennedy's Gratitude Journal, right? Understanding Gratitude. I have this beautiful little old book here, which is The Secret of Abundant Happiness, right? Information is here. Every day I pick up something like this, is Pocket Positives, right? So the reason I'm sharing all this with you, that I could go on and on. You know that I have lots of books, right? And this knowledge is something I've acquired over the years, and I learned from these people. I didn't just pick up the book and read a book, and I don't do shelf development, right? I read these books. And when I read these books, I practice in these books. I take the information and knowledge and I share it, and I get involved in the process and I take ownership. I want to find peace of mind for me. It's there, the power of the subconscious mind, relationships, sense of achievement, the plan. Now, not only do I talk about the plan, right?
You just said something very interesting there, Pat.
Go ahead.
You were saying there, you want to find peace of mind.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that?
Well, you see, when I talk to people about peace of mind, yeah, the answer is always different, Pete. Right? Peace of mind means that they don't want to feel broke. Maybe that's what's getting in the way of peace of mind. Right? What's getting in the way? Is it material goods? Is it other people's expectation of you? Is it the lack of love, or maybe the perception that there's a lack of love? And like I hear people say, "Well, look, once I get over that, once I get through this, it'll all be better." Peace of mind is a choice. It's a choice. It's about how you react to whatever's going on in the world. It's again reminding yourself that everything is on the way, not in the way, and accepting it in a very different way. And it doesn't mean that you won't be emotional and you won't be challenged. But when people talk of peace of mind, is usually what I mean is I want to move beyond broke. That's what usually means, by the way, Pete. Right? That I can pay my bills and I can provide. That's what peace of mind usually means. Because and then the people say, no, it's not. It's Pat. My head is it's in a spin. There's so much going on. Yeah, but what's creating that spin? It's usually an outside source. It's usually a third party involved, and there's any kind of a conflict. And if you don't have peace of mind, there's a conflict between what you want and what your reality, if you want to call it, what's going on in your world and what you truly want. It's usually a third party involved there somewhere that gets in the way of that peace of mind. So what is it you really want? And what are you planning to do to get there, to give you peace of mind? Now, I'm not going to say to people you just got to dismiss everything, because these are real things that are going on and they affect people's daily life. But I am saying to you, you have a choice. And the information and knowledge you have to be able to answer all those questions, to deliver everything that you want, whether it's health, love, happiness, money, time, confidence, freedom, knowledge, peace of mind, living a fulfilled life, whatever, the information is there. Right? You've often heard me say this: is success leaves clues. Success leaves clues. And now you do have to have that bit of faith. You got to learn, you got to have that faith in yourself. And you do have to refocus your search. Because I can tell you that deep inside your heart and your soul, patiently waiting to be uncovered and released, is your true self. And that comes from self-knowledge, knowing yourself. Knowing yourself. Now, you may have to learn some skills. You have the knowledge, whatever's going on inside you, because also what happens, you see, Pete, the questions that come up, there are questions that come up, the what I call the untruths that you may have picked up from your environment that keep getting in the way. So again, refocusing your searches. Don't spend your life searching all over the world when all you need is close at hand. Deep inside your heart, your soul, waiting to be released and uncovered, is your self-knowledge. And when you understand self-knowledge, the importance of self-knowledge, getting to know yourself, you'll be able to dig that little bit deeper. And this is embodied in those that you encounter every single day in your life, by the way. The people that you meet, creating that connection. Because connection is something that most people crave, particularly right now. And you're meeting people every single day, and you can create that connection with those who really get it, who really get you. Once you can release that self-knowledge of what you really know, you'll tend. Isn't it amazing? I've discovered over the years, as we start meeting more and more people, that people go, wow, I can't believe I have actually found people who think the way I think. I found people who get it. This is where I'm most comfortable at. Because what's happening, maybe whether you're aware or not, you're beginning to find that self-knowledge. You're getting to know yourself. And when you get to know yourself, you will start finding that the people you encounter on a day-to-day basis, there's a different level of connection. Right? So that begins to show up. And then the other side of it is, once all this shows up, you start creating reflection. right? And when you start creating that reflection, you can, you can start getting from the lessons of creation, right? Everything has been created before you, by the way. Everything is there. And if you allow yourself to take the time even to go into nature, and and for me, I just spending time in nature, and you start realizing by the way, you're part of nature. Nature is not just the trees and the earth and the sea. It's you. It's everything. You're all part of it. Just in case you didn't know that, because I hear people talk about, when they hear people talking about the beauty and the lessons of creation when it comes to nature, and they think, oh, that's for tree huggers and that's for all these people. Oh, you're part of nature, right? You're part of it. So I think you have to understand the lessons of creation. What has nature brought to us? What has the universe delivered to you already that you can learn from and reflect on that? And I have another little hard lesson for people. And the reality is, you may not get everything you want from life, but you will get everything you need. Sometimes life can bring you down a different journey for you to discover what it is you truly need, rather than what you want. Now, your needs will probably most likely not be what would you have wanted, by the way. Okay, the needs that you get will they'll grow, they'll make you heal, they'll make you evolve. And if you have really benefited from this need, you will have achieved happiness and maybe even bliss. Now, the needs that you get may not always be pleasant. Right? Who needs to experience negative things, right? Like loss or betrayal or so-called accidents, etc. Because everybody wants to experience gain, happiness, and other positive things. Now, you're going to like this, Pete, because when we start thinking about the wants and needs, we have to find a balance in here somewhere to get a better understanding of, when you talk about your wants and your needs, your ego determines what you want, and your soul determines your needs. When ego takes control, the soul loses control. So when we start talking about what do people want and the things that are stressing them, and you ask me about the peace of mind. Peace of mind, in my opinion, only comes when you're coming from a soulful place. And again, because if the ego is not getting what it wants, it affects the soul. So if ego takes control, ego is all about the I. It's all about I. Ego brings frustration, brings anger, sorrowfulness, envy, challenges, untruths, pain, and comparisons. And I think ego gets in the way when you start living a life of comparison. And it's the life of comparisons bring the ego, that's because things that your wants are not being met. And your wants are very different than your needs. So if you find yourself being frustrated at anything, or angry, sorrowful even, envious, telling yourself untruths, or telling untruths about somebody else, or feeling certain pain because something hasn't happened for you, or comparing yourself to others, and you got to ask yourself, why is the ego getting in the way here? Because that's what the ego brings when the ego takes over, the ego takes control. So if you really want to change that, I'm going to suggest that you fall in love with your soul inside of you. Your soul is pure love, pure unconditional love.
I was slightly struck a while ago there. You talked about questioning yourself in a very positive, question your beliefs, questions your intentions, question everything. And I suppose I'm kind of the average person that's going to scare the bejesus out of them in the nicest way, right? Because you're sort of saying, take what you know today, but put a question mark beside everything. It's it's certainly, it comes across, and I understand there, but I suppose it's for everyone is trying to go, God, where do I stand? If I put a question mark on everything, where do I stand?
Yeah, well, firstly, Peter, I guess you used the term there. You said, right, for the average person. I don't believe there's any average people. I believe we are extraordinary people living in an average world. And when you understand that how people's environment impacts them and how it impacts their beliefs, and look how people are conditioned to believe certain things and to behave in certain ways based on their story, if you like. And for me, the questions that come up, I always, when I talk about the books and the things I have around me, Pete, there's an answer to all those questions somewhere in there. The information is there. Your past generation, your people, the people in the past in this world have left clues here for you. And when I talk about extraordinary people living in an average world, most people feel that they're just an average Joe Soap, right? And for the average Joe Soap, if you want to use that term, their environment has impacted them in certain ways that has created a certain level of beliefs. And I can say this to you wholeheartedly. Now, if I look back on my life and I look back at some of the biggest pains, the greatest pains that I experienced, some of the greatest losses, frustrations, were possibly because of beliefs that I was holding on to. And my greatest lesson in life for me was to question my beliefs often. Now, I don't get stuck in it, by the way, because as I say to you, there's only so many times you can keep asking a question and the answer is there in front of you. You've got to take control and take ownership of the answer. But when I look at the stories, and I'm going to share with you this because what I love about this particular book, Pete, is both you and I are in it, right? Amongst 18 other extraordinary people who've moved beyond average in terms of the world that they live in. They're no longer living in an average world because you chose to change your beliefs, therefore chose to change your behavior. So in this book, right, which is only soon to be released, right? You be life or belief. And if you look at the title of belief, you see there's a lie in most beliefs. So what lie, if you're holding on to a belief that's challenging you, that's not allowing you to have all those things that you need, what lie are you telling yourself? And in this, for me, honestly, what I love about this book is when the people wrote this book, the 20 authors in this book, 20 stories of how they are now living life, because they choose not to buy into the lie anymore. And when people, and I mean this respectfully, maybe you too, Pete, I don't know, but when people were asked to write their story in this book and put their story in this book, most people kind of thought, well, I'm just an average Joe Soap. Why would my story make a difference? And by choosing to share that story, because there's going to be a lie in there for a lot of people who read a book, they will recognize that lie that they're living, that untruth that they're living based on the information that has been provided through your story. And that will allow people, extraordinary people, to stop living an average life based on their beliefs. So when you talk about, for the average Joe Soap, let me say this to you. Every single person in here who is written in this are just like you. Extraordinary people living in an average world. There is something in here, there's a story in there that will resonate with everybody. Not all of the stories will resonate with everybody. Some will take a lot of information from all the stories, but listen, it only takes one. It only takes one to resonate with you for you to find the answer. So when I talk about asking questions, sometimes you read stories. I mean, I read other people's stories, and this knowledge is information that I'm surrounded with here. For me, I decided to create it, Pete. And I didn't just take it and listen to it, right? There we go. I decided to make it happen, right? This is one of my own programs that are there. I have buckets of this information for people, right? My mission and vision document. I look at what's my mission in life, what's my mission in business, what's my vision, right? I think about lifetime goals. It's all there. The information is here. I can keep going. Emotions that will turn your life around, right? You like this one is choosing to get involved in the process. Okay. And for me, to me, honestly, the one thing that I love, and this is what I keep saying to people about the information. Yeah, I'm surrounded by information, but what do I read a lot? My own stuff. My own stuff. I reflect as my 1995 diary. Actually, I just made some notes on it. I go back over my diaries. I reflect on my life. I look at the changes that have happened. How can I create more? I look at different things. Here's a DVD you haven't seen, Pete, I don't think. This is one I created. How to double your income in 4 weeks or less, right? That's one of my DVDs that I've created. So my point of saying this to you, there's so much information. And then I have my accountability partner. This is the best thing I've ever created. This is my success diary. This is what keeps me on track as my accountability partner. So yes, I'm surrounded by information, but by using this information, this knowledge, and actually creating something for me. And this is what's really important for people, is about creating something for you out of this information, this knowledge, everything that's available that you're surrounded with, by the way. But I will say to you, first and foremost, is fall in love with the soul inside of you. Your soul is pure, unconditional love. So if you only want to know bliss, which is happiness without a reason to be happy, if you want to ensure no disappointments, then it's simple. Fall in love with yourself at a soul level. You asked me this question, Pete, and I wasn't sure of the answer. You probably thought there was going to be a pause in that answer. One time you asked me in one of your podcasts, you said, Pat, do you love yourself? I said, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, when we say unconditionally, sometimes there are always conditions because you have expectations. Now, you have expectations of yourself to be the best you can be. So when we talk about unconditional love, there's always going to be a little bit uncertainty around that one, right? But the reality is, to me, it's pure. I'm purely in love with myself, not in an egotistical way. Because if it's egotistical, the ego is going to get in the way. I lose control. Right. So for me, it's about falling in love with yourself at a soul level. Learning to love yourself, by the way, not the parts of yourself that were created by your ego. And I mean, this is, and I really hope that people can dig deep and find the answer to this, because again, learning to love yourself, not the parts of yourself that were created by your ego, the real you at a soul level. So if you were to do this, you could recognize the soul-like qualities that you would like to experience within you. Soul-like qualities that you would like to experience within you, like love, kindness, caring, trust, confidentiality, laughter, happiness, enthusiasm, that kind of whole feel-good attitude, healing, growth. All of these things are feelings. And let me tell you, feelings are a language of the soul. What are you feeling? Are you feeling life? Are you feeling love? Are you feeling confident? Do you feel like laughing? Do you feel kindness? And kindness, by the way, doesn't come from outside. It has to come from within. All of this, by the way, comes from within. This is not something that you have to go and find social proof for. Because when you do that, the ego is getting in the way again. You're not in control. If it's something that you have to seek from outside, and usually when you're looking for it from the outside, somebody else's ego is getting in the way, or a third party's ego is getting in the way, and it's causing a conflict. Right? So recognizing those soul-like qualities, you all have them. Allow yourself to actually take the time to experience within yourself that love, that kindness, caring. And for some people, you may have to practice it. Then allow it into your life.
it's, well, I was going to say it's strange. It's not strange, but I was listening to the teacher there, Sadhguru, and he was talking, and it was a very interesting point, I thought, just that you cannot feel or experience outside of yourself.
Yeah. I mean, if I feel angry, it may be caused or created by something outside of me, but I'm the only person who can feel it. And and I have a great friend of mine who was a good mentor to me many years ago, a guy called John Flynn. Some of the people on here may know him. And I remember him sharing this with me. And I'm grateful that I have this knowledge. But he said, you know what, for him, when we talk about depression and so forth and how people feel or behave in certain ways, usually it's because they suppress certain things and particularly feelings, whatever. And when you suppress feelings, what comes with that is depression. And when you have that depression and that feeling of suppression, we've all heard that term like the straw that broke the camel's back, right? Something small or something that seems unimportant and probably is unimportant causes people just to blow their top, to go crazy, to freak out over something. And all of a sudden, they just let go. And because they've suppressed it for so long, that it just needs one little thing. So if I'm going to feel all of this, I have to say, how do I stop feeling it if I'm feeling things that are not good? And what I learned from him is if I can express it, I don't have to become it. Expressing it doesn't mean that I physically get angry. It means I can share it. If I can say it, I don't have to become it. So there will be days, Pete, that everybody will be challenged. There may be times that you'll feel, that you're not that confident, or you're feeling that you're not feeling happy today. And you can say, "Oh, I don't feel so happy today. I feel a bit sad. Actually, I feel a bit sad today." And the very fact that you can say it, it means you don't have to become it. You're feeling frustrated, right? Because when most people, when they suppress it, they act it out eventually. It just blows up and they act out in a certain way that's not congruent to who they are. It's just a behavior. And people get shocked and said, I'm shocked at their behavior. That's not who they normally are, what they're like, etc. So if I say, today I'm just feeling a bit frustrated, the person on the receiving end knows that it's got nothing to do with them. If I don't share it and I become it, then other people feel that it's got something to do with them, and you're expressing your anger on them and sharing it with them, and then it doesn't make them feel so good either, right? And maybe you're the person who's been on the receiving end of this in the past. Now, that's not to excuse bad behavior either, by the way. You shouldn't have to accept that. So you got to have to say to yourself, you got to look at yourself honestly and start recognizing your soul qualities, and particularly the ones that you want to experience. Think about moments where you've shared love and kindness and friendship. You were helpful to somebody. You're enthusiastic about doing something in your life. Times that you felt you were healing, overcoming pain, or helped support somebody else overcoming pain. You've all experienced this, no matter how tough life is. I think it's really important that you got to dig deep and allow yourself to go right in at a soul level. And how are you feeling when you're doing this? Because it's the feeling you get is what's going to inspire you to keep doing more. I meet people who tell me, what I do. I meet philanthropists, people who are true philanthropists, who are givers or who are carers. And I have had conversations with many, many people, and we've discovered that, people go, well, they're very carefree. They do everything for everybody except themselves. And the reality is, no, they don't. They're getting something from it. They're getting an incredible feeling. And if you didn't get that feeling, you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it. Now, you see, here's what often happens too. People go, well, I kind of behave in certain ways that it wouldn't be congruent to who I want to be, right? And who you want to be, again, is the ego. So, people go, well, I've acted in the past in a way that wouldn't really say that I was operating from a soul level. Well, that's the ego. That's the ego again. Now you have a choice whether you keep recognizing the ego for it to keep turning up, or you can start recognizing yourself at a soul level. Now that doesn't mean, by the way, that you can't have material goods, by the way. Of course you can, but you can still be a good person. You don't have to railroad other people to get there. Matter of fact, I believe it's easier to get there when you come from operating at a soul level. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to make mistakes. I don't believe that anybody is wholeheartedly 100% good at all times. Right? Life will put challenges in your way. You're going to respond to it. And it's only when you come from, when you recognize the ego, are you truly learning. So maybe you have to experience the ego as well in order to know whether it's the ego or not. So you'll experience all this. And sometimes it's okay. You can have fun and feel good getting things that you want. But don't sacrifice for things. My advice is don't sacrifice what you want for what you truly need. Okay, but again, it's still okay to get the things that you want. Okay, so when you understand that feelings are the language of the soul, allow it into your life. Be part of life, your life, the life that you truly desire. And what you've got to know here is this is your choice. Again, the world has provided you with clues. The people in your life, in your past, have provided you with clues. They're all around you.
What's been a point of knowing that clarity for you?
Oh, wow. I could probably come across multiple times. It didn't happen overnight, Pete. Right? It was through a multitude of experiences, and I'm beginning to recognize what I truly want, and then the feelings I was getting as I was going through that journey of life, and how certain feelings change around certain things. And I could probably give you dozens of examples of that, dozens. And as you asked me the question, I can go back and think about it. I mean, back in the early days, in very early in my career, I was a workaholic. I mean, it was ridiculous, the hours I used to work, because I wanted to provide for a day. And I had one son who's now 29 years old, right? So 29 years ago, I was a workaholic, working 20 hours a day, because I wanted to provide for him so he could have what I didn't have. But the funny thing is, I had so much more than he did. When I look back, for the first 10 years of his life, I hardly saw him. That wasn't why I was doing it. I did see him, but I didn't spend as much time as I would have liked to have spent, and things I would have loved doing. We did spend some time, but that lesson for me was, the importance of that relationship and how important that was to me, and realizing that that's the feeling I was getting when I spent time with my family was second to none. So I needed more time, but I thought I wanted more money and more material goods to make life easier. And if I couldn't provide, would I be letting them down, right? So there's the ego getting in the way. And then when I started providing, I was king of the hill. But that was the ego as well. So when we start looking, and now I've discovered, by the way, you can have it all, by the way. You can have it all. You don't have to sacrifice one for the other. And when we understand that, and again, this is a journey that everybody will have to experience for themselves, and it's their experiences that will highlight those feelings. It is the feelings that you're having that are prompting those questions that you're asking of yourself. If you feel that you don't have enough money, what are you feeling? Stress, poverty, lack of. Therefore, you're going to ask, what do I need to do to get more money? Or how come I can't make enough money? How come you're going to ask all these hard questions because of how you're feeling? When you meet that person, you fall in love with somebody, you just don't ask anymore. You don't look anymore. The ideas of going out and living a fun life could change for people or not. Who knows? But it's whatever feeling you're getting. The feeling of friendship. I believe I have lots of friends, but I have 3 true friends outside of my family. Now I have 2. But I don't feel like I need to have any more friends at the level that I have these friends at, because I've experienced true friendship. So at a soul level, I'm happy to meet anybody and have conversations with anybody because I don't have that need for friendship. So it's easier for me to be friendly. I don't have to want to be friends with everybody, but I can be friendly with everybody. So I can, because I've experienced it, and I am experiencing it. It's very much part of my life at a soul level. So therefore, it's easier for me to be that way now to everybody I meet. I'm completely in love with myself, not in an egotistical way. I love what I'm doing now, and I love the feeling I get when I share something that changes somebody else's life, and it changes my life. I have become a hugger. I was never a hugger. I love the feeling, right? You know, so there's so much that's out there for people, and again, you have to understand it is your choice. Everything is a choice. You can choose freedom. You can choose to accept that everything you need is within you and around you. The people, we're here today, Pete, having this conversation. One of my probably my number one goal is to be able to make a difference. That's what's important to me. And as a result of that, this resource, which is now Pete Longton, Fire in the Belly, which has turned up today, has become part of my journey because it is allowing me to express it. So this is around me. You were here. I could easily have said no. I could easily have said, "Oh, I'm a bit iffy about going on there talking about all this stuff, and God, will it be very much good in front of the camera, or I'm a bit shy, or again, that's back to thinking about your soul level and talking about the soul, right? And the fears that are created by other people. There's really nothing to do with other people, with you. It's what's happening at a soul level and how you're being challenged when it comes to faith, having that faith in yourself. I have faith in myself, Pete, that I know we've discussed this because we don't sit down really and plan this whole talk, right? I have generally have no idea what questions you're going to ask me, but I have complete faith that the answer is here, and I have the answer, and I have the knowledge for what it's needed for right now. Everything I say may not be the answer for everybody, but there is somebody who's watching this that is going to get something from this. And I have complete faith in that this is the right thing to do. And whatever comes up from today will come up from today, and whatever comes out will come out. And whatever people decide to take away and choose to make a part of their life, that will happen. I have complete faith in that. But the reality is, you're there. This podcast opportunity, we're live on Facebook. This opportunity is here. The information, the knowledge, the way about. But because we ask how, where, what can I do? What will I do? How will I do it? When will I do it? And we answer those. We don't just ask the questions, we answer the question. We answer the question. You asked me, Pat, would you like to do this? Yes. The question was answered. It wasn't 100 other questions. I answered the question. And then by truly answering the question is you turn up and you do it. You get involved in it. You take action. The knowledge, the information is there. It is within you, and it is all around you. Will you get it right all of the time? No, but that's okay, because that's part of the experience. That's part of learning. That's just creating more knowledge, more information. You're leaving clues, by the way. Every single one of you, you're leaving clues for somebody else, by the way. Make sure they're good ones. Make sure they're good ones, because there are clues all around you when it comes to life. How to survive. How to survive. Imagine somebody could leave you information on how to survive a recession. There are people surviving. There are people who have survived it in the past. There are people who are thriving. And there are people who thrived in the past. There are people who may have gone through it and suffered through it, but thrived when they came out the other end. So it doesn't matter what's going on in the world. It doesn't matter what's going on in life. It's what are you choosing? What information are you downloading? What knowledge are you downloading? What belief are you downloading? And are you loving yourself? Are you true to yourself at a soul level? Because really, the rest of it doesn't matter. It will write itself. It will write itself, because when you really understand, when you dig deep like this, you will do what you need to do to have the things that you truly need. And there's no shortage of information, of tools, of strategies, by the way. There are clues all around you. There's information for all the things that you want to need. There are roadmaps created for you from those that have been here before you. Find them. Find that information. Choose to own your life. And I will suggest that you change your beliefs if they need to be changed. Question them. And it's not about asking hundreds of thousands of questions unless you're prepared to find the answer. And sometimes the answer is not the one that you might want to hear, or maybe the one that you need. So my suggestion to people, really and truly, today is to choose to live at a soul level, to love yourself at a soul level, in particular with the times that we're going through right now, the things that we're going through right now. Choose to love yourself at a soul level. Do not let ego get in the way. And if I was to think about a quote I would like to leave you with, I would say fall into life, not out of life. Because you are life. Fall into life, not out of life. Choose to love and live at a soul level. And that means live with yourself at a soul level. And that doesn't mean that you have to become all, encompassing the all being and everything else. It means that you live your life the way you know that you can live it, with integrity and honesty, and absolutely taking ownership of your life, whatever that you choose that to be. And when you do that, you won't live a life of comparisons. You may want to live a simple life. And if that's your life, then that's your life. You may want to live an extravagant life. And if that's your life, that's your life. No judgment, no comparisons. Just choose to fall into life, your life. And fall in love with yourself at a soul level. And then live today. And by the way, no judgment. I mean that. Don't judge yourself. But even when people think about living at a soul level and living that life, they want to be carefree, they want to have fun. They go, oh yeah, but if I was to live at a soul life, I wouldn't do that. According to who? Again, you're living by somebody else's rule. Right? So don't judge yourself. Don't be looking for reasons not to do things. No matter what it means to you, you know yourself when you're truly happy, you can have whatever you want. As long as you bring no pain to the world, and no sorrow or pain to the world, you can live your life, no matter what it is. And I mean this, I don't care what you choose to do. I don't care what you choose to do. If you choose to be happy, and do whatever makes you happy. And then just own it.
That was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete.
I think it's a perfect place to stop, and just thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing that. That was deep.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate it.
What's meant to be is meant to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Till the next time.
I'm looking forward to the next time.
Thanks very much, folks.
Thank you.